listening to Late Night Radio on the SHR Media Network. Caution, there will be mature themes explored and potentially adult language used. If conservatarian words, phrases, certain concepts, or rhetoric offends you, tune out now.
Guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody? Julie, hey, guess what day it is? Oh, come on, I know you can hear me. Mike. What day is it, Mike?
You magnificent bastard, I read your book! I drink your milkshake.
How dare you?
I call that bold talk for a one-eyed fat man.
Through your hand, you son of a bitch!
Captain.
Captain.
No, not yet. Don't pass out on me yet. Of course you realize this means war.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, where I am broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California. Always spell it with a K. A mere 2 miles east of the locus of evil on the entire left coast, the Bill Mill, the belly of the beast, the Capitol building in downtown Sacramento at 10th and L Street, where late at night you can hear the death of common sense and its concomitant wail as it wafts from that petrifying edifice within. And late at night, when I exit the plush, resplendent, sumptuous, palatial, and effulgently bulbous SHR Media Studios, I'll be smelling the odoriferous stench of sulfur, brimstone, and evil emanating from that mentally destitute column structure aforementioned. What you're about to hear for the next 2 hours consists of my opinion only, and no one else's. Because of the fear porn that has gripped this nation, the saloon is no longer open up in the front, in the door, as the city of Sacramento has pulled my license. But guess what? I'm still serving stiff drinks, facts, history, logic, rationality, proportion, context, tradition, intent, and common sense out the back door, and we don't water our drinks, just as we don't water our conversation. Politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all right here at the saloon, where the speech is free, but the booze is not. In 2020, I am done with compromise and bipartisanship. This is the new age of modern political warfare. The leftists, the Democrats, and the American media maggots all want you dead, or at minimum jobless, bankrupt, bereft of a future, and slaving, gibbering in the fetal position under your desk, waiting for the local leftist governors and mayors to bestow a modicum of freedom in dribs and drabs when it pleases them, always to be taken away when it pleases them, or when you have the temerity to push back or reoffend. If our Constitution and Bill of Rights don't prevail, we have absolutely lost this nation, and it won't be coming back. Because if we lose freedom here in the United States of America, where else are we going to find it around the planet? Tonight in the saloon, it's Tuesday, June 9th, the year of our Lord 2020. In the first hour, I'm going to have Eric Thompson. I believe this is going to be a very interesting interview with Eric. I found him on the internet, which is where I usually find most of my really great guests. And also in the second hour, just to let you know, I'm going to be featuring an SHR Media special report, which is essentially, one death is a tragedy, and 6,000 plus deaths in the state of New York in nursing homes is just a statistic. You can ask Governor Cuomo, and he'll tell you all about it. That's in the second hour. So for right now, tonight I would like to introduce a gentleman who, like I said, like so many other great guests I have on the show, I happen to find on the internet, and more specifically, I happen to find on social media, with one major exception, as opposed to everybody else. It's social media he created. So little did I know that he had his own radio show. We'll get to that and much more tonight as we talk to Eric Thompson. So Eric Thompson, if you're there, welcome to the Saloon, sir.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on.
Most of my guests happen to be on the right coast with the 3-hour difference. And customarily, I first have to apologize to keeping him up so late for an interview and to talk to him. Because right now, let's see, it's 11:05 on the East Coast. And it's, 8:05 on the left coast. And in Bolivia, it's 17:49 and 7.325 subsector growth cluster 3 in Bolivian time, which is, I never could understand Bolivian time, which is really strange. But you're not on the East Coast, you're on the West Coast. So, as a matter of fact, Eric Thompson, you're in California, aren't you?
I am. I'm down here outside of Fresno.
Oh, now that's very interesting. Because I got a couple of friends that are in Fresno. Everybody in Fresno knows each other, just like everybody in Sacramento knows each other. So I'm sure you know or have heard of Alan Thomas. Alan Thomas comes on the show. He's a Sasquatch hunter and investigator, a paranormal kind of guy. And I have him on here. The other weird thing is that my wife was born in Fresno. And
well, I'm sure it's a lot different than when she was born here. I've been here on and off for the last 15 years with the stint in Texas, and this is becoming just another progressive metro hub as more people come in from the Bay Area and LA to get cheaper housing. But we have a progressive city council in Fresno. We have a rhino mayor, and so it's morphing into another large expansion of China, India. Not a simulation, just like the Bay Area. So a lot of people, I don't think they recognize we have a fast-growing homeless problem like the rest of the state, and we have a deficit. And it's at the point now that I actually went out and bought my first handgun today. I'm 52 years old. Never.
Wait.
Yep, Marine Corps. I was in the Marine Corps, Desert Storm. Never owned a gun. Never thought, you know what? We live in normally pretty good areas. But I can tell you that the way that the progressives are working around the country now with the Antifa and stuff, you just don't know anymore.
No, congratulations are in order for buying your first handgun. Excellent. Apparently,
I'm excited about it. And I got to go through the 18-day. I guess the DOJ's backed up because so many people are buying guns that they're actually backed up.
Imagine that. That's hard to feature. Fresno. Wow. I hadn't featured Fresno being a bedroom community for the Bay Area, but I should have, because one of the major roads whose number I cannot recall right now is pretty much kind of a direct line over into the Bay Area. There's a little town south of Sacramento called Elk Grove, which in the 70s was really, really teeny. Now it's fairly big, but it has become a bedroom community for the Bay Area as well. In the 70s and 80s, well, specifically the 80s, East Palo Alto was the most violent, gang-ridden city in the state of California. Always spell it with a K, so that was a big plus, a big feather in their cap. And all of the people that were there and in the Bay Area, their parents, their mommies and daddies, mostly mommies, moved into Elk Grove, and they brought their gang-banging kids with it. Ain't that a shame? Fresno crime hasn't gone up or anything, has it?
Oh yeah, we have our dozens of murders. We have the gangs. We've got the the Hmong gangs.
Good.
And as you know, they have the train to nowhere starting here in Fresno, so you can actually see the $30 billion beginning of the high-speed rail that's never going to be completed, right as you come into town.
Eric Thompson, this is great. I went down on Highway 99. Okay, folks, I said that incorrectly. I drove down Highway 99 probably a year ago down to Fresno to see my friend Alan, as a matter of fact. And I can distinctly recall Eric Thompson, who I'm speaking to right now, who is the guest for the first hour, and he's created his own social media platform, has his own radio show called The Eric Thompson Show. We will be getting to that. But I can distinctly recall that as I'm going south on Highway 99, over to my left, there's this a short elevated chunk of whatever the hell it was. I thought it was freeway. No. It's an actual section of the $1 billion train. So my question to you, Eric Thompson, did that section get any bigger, or is it still sitting there like that?
No, what's happening is Newsom and them are forcing that train to be built, even though they don't have any ecological studies done for heading over to San Jose. They don't have the money. They don't have anything. They don't know how to run the train up the Grapevine to get over to LA. So what they've decided to do is they're building a high-speed train to connect the major metropolitan cities of Modesto, California to Bakersfield.
Oh, God, and people are clamoring. People are clamoring for an express train from Modesto to Bakersfield. Now, for the people on the East Coast, or anybody not in California, always spell it with a K, those people right now are wondering, what the hell is a Modesto? Bakersfield, I may have heard of, kind of. But Modesto? That's a big place in California?
That's basically agriculture. Okay, Modesto is most known for, Scott Peterson.
Oh,
remember,
yeah. You're
he killed
right.
He killed Lacey. Yeah, so that's the fame. But, yeah, Modesto is an agriculture town.
Right.
And the train goes all the way through all the grapevines and the almond trees and through now Fresno. It's going to connect down to agriculture in Bakersfield. And so the train's probably going to cost $60. It's going to be subsidized by the state of California because there's no way that people are going to be able to afford or justify taking that train at 180 miles an hour to take you when you could just jump on the 99 for an hour and 20 minutes and get there for $6 of gas.
Yeah, imagine that. Especially today with today's gas prices.
Right.
God, that was a great decision. The funny thing was, if Newsom, our governor, had just decided that he was going to cancel the train to nowhere, he would have made up his budget deficit. But he's not going to do that, and he needs money. He needs federal money. If you're listening in New York or in Indiana or any other state other than California, Newsom's coming for your cash. Just thought I'd tell you that. So when people say something similar to me, oh, you guys in California, you're such a laugh riot, my response to them is generally, oh, really? Well, whatever we decide of here in this Petri dish gets exported to your state. And our ideas here soon become your ideas if you're a blue state. So you think you can exist in a vacuum? No, that's not happening. I got to ask you this, Eric Thompson, are you staying in California? Because I am not.
No, we're not. We're actually, my wife's a Californian. I grew up in the Midwest. But so she's been one of the diehard, we're going to stay and fight the bad fight. And we flew to Stillwater, Oklahoma to see our daughter and grandson. Uh-huh. And flying back in, we descended into the smog and the dust. And then we get in and all of a sudden it's the culture shock. This isn't Kansas, Toto. And so, no, we're probably going to end up outside of Phoenix, I think, is where we're going to end up eventually.
That's interesting, because a lot of the dudes and dudettes that I worked with, I retired in 2016 after 41 years in law enforcement, and my last assignment was in Sacramento for the Sheriff's Department. A lot of the people from this department and other surrounding environs went to either New Mexico or they went to Arizona. And I can't take the heat, but despite that, all the people are saying, oh, man, Arizona, you got to go there. New Mexico, you got to check it out. That's the last place I would have expected to go. Eric Thompson, I do have to make an apology up front. I had you originally scheduled for last Thursday night, but I had to cancel the entire show because the internet was down in the studio thanks to the lovely Comcast business. A great advocate, I should mention, folks, of Black Lives Matter, by the way. So, Eric Thompson, I am sorry for the inconvenience and the rescheduling, sir.
Anytime. No, I enjoy connecting with fellow, like minds. We're in the strangest time. I'm 52. Been to 13 countries and did talk radio for a while here in Fresno. But I have to say, this is probably the strangest period that I've ever seen in my 52 years of, basically from Carter on, I've been really kind of tracking politics and, political science and economics. And this is a strange time right now because we're seeing the fruit of the Marxist training to our education system going on the third generation now. And we've really dug ourselves into a big hole with national debts, with lack of identity. And there's a lot of people my age and older that are, oh no, we're going to fight. We're going to save this country. And if we don't become Rockies in our 70s as a collective group, I don't know if it's possible. We may have gone over the edge, and I'm still optimist, but I have to say, not because of the riots, and I mean this is just a Alinsky, just a methodology through the teachings to keep us off kilter. But I don't feel a connection. The reason why I started MAGAbook.com was to try to get conservatives off of Facebook and Twitter, but they don't come over, so we'll get to that. But I'm just saying that the people really are entrenched in the same social media platforms, news networks, for the most part, and they're not getting accurate information, and it's a little bit alarming for me as I look at everything today.
We will get to all of those things that you mentioned, folks. I'm talking to Eric Thompson, and I want to go to your social media here for just a second. First, let's talk about your show. I'm looking at your Facebook page, and folks, if you are on Facebook, Eric Thompson Show is where you'll find it. At the top, there's a really nice logo, ET Talk Show, Eric Thompson Show. So, Eric Thompson, if folks want to listen to your show, where do they go and when can they hear it?
Well, that's the retooling here. So the best thing to do is I'm probably launching again next Monday. Facebook has kicked me off 4 times. So the page you're seeing is actually my 4th attempt just to try to get into the group to bring them out.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm probably going to do. I'm debating about. I'm trying to get a feel from the public too. I don't know. Podcasts are getting popular. What's your feeling right now? With people? Do you see them gravitating toward podcasts, or are they still into the terrestrial radio? Or that's that platform I'm still trying to get my head around because I'm seeing such a large movement of people over to the static podcast side of the industry.
Which is really strange. I associate with a whole bunch of other people that are either podcasting or associating with people that broadcast live. I'm pushing 70. I originally worked in terrestrial radio in KFBK in the very, very early 1970s at KFBK. So I've seen the terrestrial radio side, but the interesting aspect is there isn't one radio station that's terrestrial that doesn't have an internet presence. And it's funny, last week I spoke to Jeremy Hansen and another couple of folks, and the question I definitely posed to them was, if you had a choice, would you go podcast or would you go live? And my preference is always live. Podcasts, I guess there's something to be said for podcasts. I just like the immediacy of going live, because if you hear something strange or foolish or fattening or illegal, it is what it is at the time that it was broadcast. Yeah, you can ship it out later as a podcast. When it was live, you can ship it out later as a podcast. That's just my history. I've always gone live. Podcasts are kind of a new thing for me. Now, I will ship out media at the end of this show for the podcast of this show, because I'm on all the standard stuff. But I just like.
I'm with you there. I was on 1680 AM here in Fresno live, shooting by the seat of my pants because I was working full time, running in the studio, 10 minutes of prep, showtime.
Yep.
That community and people listening live and the feedback, that's what really drives my personality too.
Yes.
And I don't like the way things are synthesizing down to, oh, okay, I'm just going to go and stare at Facebook 8 hours and then I'll go listen to a podcast and go to bed. You know, just to give you a little bit of background, when to try to get more content for my show, I would go over to outside of Google and Facebook, and I did 4,600 Uber rides. So I could interview them as I was taking them from Facebook to Twitter to Apple to Microsoft.
Really?
Yeah. So I can tell you way too much about artificial intelligence, about how teaching is going to be not around in the next 10 years, attorneys. But what's happening is that they have 3 or 4 engineers at these tech companies that are able to keep 2, 3, 4 billion people tied up every day through their Facebook alerts, the algorithms, the AI, the ads, just getting people dependent on this pseudo community online. Magabook.com, which we started, was to be more of an informative. Come in. This is what's going on with Second Amendment. This is how you homeschool your kids. You know, these are things going on in the medical industry. This is artificial intelligence. So we have 5,000-6,000 people that are coming over. We're growing, but the pull is back to Facebook. You know, and I go, what do you? Because most people that I know, when they get off social media, they're in a bad mood. Yeah,
that's the sad truth. Me too. Guilty right here.
You want to kill somebody, right? I was on Twitter, and this guy actually called Trump a fat orange man, and then I told him this, and then this guy over here, and boy, I sure tweeted him, and I sure got him back, and then I went over to Facebook, and 8 people were making fun of me, and I told them that they a bunch of snowflakes, and then they get off, and then they try to go to bed, and I'm thinking, what did you accomplish, though?
The adrenaline is coursing through your body anyway.
Sure.
So yeah, that'll help to put you to bed, won't it?
No, you can't sleep then, and then you're upset, and then you have sleep deprivation, and then you get nervous. Is Trump going to win? Or is he not going to win? And you know, what about Russia collusion? And then they go to the talk shows, and they listen to 8 talk shows. And one of the reasons why I took a break from talk shows is that I fell into the rut because I was busy with the social media side of just almost becoming a news commentary platform. You know, hi, this is the 3 top stories. I'm going to talk for an hour, and thank you for listening. But in the end, people need to understand that we're not fighting for next week. We're fighting for our Constitution that is under attack. If it doesn't stand, if it gets eroded, if more Marxists come out and the next generation gets in and a couple more poor decisions from Roberts on the Supreme Court, the next thing you know, instead of the Heller case was 5-4, you must be able to buy a handgun in New York or D.C. It could have gone 4 or 5, which means
easily
they could say you could not have a specific type of gun. That's how close we are. 5-4 on constitutional protections on certain issues that are going to prevent tyranny in the future. And that's what we need to be worried about. Not NRA, like them or not, but whoever is fighting for those First Amendment, Second Amendment, Third Amendment, Fourth Amendment, all 10 need to be backed up, and we need to be making sure people are educated, not just people we're battling on social media. And that's my concern.
It's funny. Simone in chat said, hey, magabook.com. And I said, I put the link up in chat. And, God, what did she say if I can find it? Here it is. Facebook, she said, can be like a bar at 2 a.m. And I thought, that's kind of interesting. But it's true. I know people that will stay up late at night. The blue light syndrome will be in your eyes. And I know a lot of people listen to podcasts late at night. And then you go, especially these days, you go to bed wired and you wake up wired. You know, because number one, the crack is not going to smoke itself, folks, okay? And number two, as I've always said, this is easy to be solved with either vodka or a throat punch. I'm just telling you here right now. Since you've already addressed the issue, folks, I'm talking to Eric Thompson, who we are learning was a broadcaster on terrestrial radio in 1680 in Fresno, California, where he currently lives in Fresno, which is an agrarian town kind of in the middle of the San Joaquin Valley, about 4 hours south of Sacramento, which is where I am. And tell us what is magabook.com and why did you start it, Eric Thompson?
Okay, magabook.com is when I was doing those Uber rides around Facebook and Twitter. Obviously, when the 2016 results came out and Trump won, there was this. I was picking people up that worked at Google, and their managers were calling in sick because they were so mentally distraught they couldn't work. And so they were telling me, these are people from India and China, right? They talk too much, these foreign workers. Valley for allowing Trump to win Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. So the whole world said, internet, bad. Zuckerberg, bad. You know, and so I knew that going into 20, well, I knew 18 would be a really terrible time for Republicans because social media was going to start changing the algorithms, putting only bad results on the top of the top 10. So if you search, is Trump good or bad, that's all 10 would be saying Trump's evil. So I knew going into 20, and you're seeing it right now, that their social media was going to silence conservative thoughts, traditional thoughts. So I thought, well, I better start a platform because I can't stand people that complain and don't do anything. So I said, well, I'll start magabook.com. We didn't have a lot of money, but my wife and I started it. And we had a surge, and then I had to upgrade the software, and because it was custom, then I lost the users, and I upgraded. So we got a really good running. Just like the Facebook, Twitter combination platform, it works the same way. You can like people, you can follow them, you can talk to them. And so Magabook is I can go live on it. You can go live. We can do live broadcasting. It has the tools, but it's not. I don't have a billion users on it. So when people go from Facebook, where you can see, 1,000 posts a minute, and then you go on a Magabook where you see 18 or 20, then you run back to Facebook. And so Magabook is a platform that you could go on. You could get the same information you're getting on Facebook. You can get the same memes. You can connect with people that are like-minded. I don't allow any porn on here. I don't allow trolling. But it's not a combative website where you can go on here and scream at liberals all day. And I think that's the problem right now, is that I have it to where we're like-minded and we're working toward a cause. And a lot of people like to go on and yell at liberals. And so the Magabook is here it's obviously no cost. I don't share people's information. I don't sell the information.
God bless you for that. Thank you for that.
So it's a free platform that's protected, secured. I don't share the information. It's self-funded. And so the site works great. I'm on a huge server. And people are on it right now. I'll get, thousands of people a week come on it. But the difficulty is, because that's what people tell me. I love your platform. I love your heart. I'm getting great information, but all my friends are on Facebook. You know what I mean? And then I go, but Zuckerberg's selling your information, and he's creating a virtual you, and you're being targeted by marketing. And I know this because I took somebody from a woman from Microsoft, and I gave her an Uber ride to Facebook about 3 years ago. And I said, why are you going to Facebook? And she goes, we consider them to be frenemies, friendly enemies. So all of the social media platforms, all of the Silicon Valley is one web of marketing. So it doesn't matter if you're on Facebook, Twitter, Microsoft, Bing, Live, email, Google, Gmail. The data is all basically shared into this AI cloud. And so if you're on Facebook and you go over to Twitter and then you send an email, everybody knows in the end, in this algorithm, oh, okay, well, they're looking for pizza in Hawaii. And they're going to feed you ads throughout the different various platforms until somebody gets the benefit of you clicking. So everything is marketing. It's all about collecting data. And then if you want to go nefarious, they'll sell it. It can go to the wrong people. You can have like the group that, was able to collect a bunch of user information, and Facebook knew it, but then they said they didn't know it. And so people's friends' information was, so it's just, we are losing our anonymity. We're losing our sovereignty as individuals in these big tech companies, because they're all giving you free tools, free video, free bells and whistles, more alerts, whatever you want. Just stay on our platform all day, and then we're going to sell all your information, all your emails, and everything to people who want to buy the advertising. If you ever get up to Facebook, they was started with one building, and now they have a whole miles long of massive buildings off of your usage on Facebook. And they've got people living in apartments now in the complex. They got a garden on top of the building.
Perfect.
I mean, they're making billions of dollars off of us, and they're controlling us, and you only hear from people on Facebook that Facebook wants you to hear from. If they don't want you to hear from those people, my wife today, for example, they took her page down completely, just because she was posting about the riots and stuff, and so she goes to log in and gone. No questions asked, no warnings, because she was getting outside of her information was getting to reach too many people, and they needed to stop her. So they just.
And that's what I think the threshold is. Folks, we're talking to Eric Thompson. I'm going to have to take a break. We'll be back in about 4 or 5 minutes. When we come back, I want to ask Eric Thompson about Twitter and the president. Then I want to get into some social media questions. And then I want to discuss with Eric Thompson the difference of discerning a platform versus a publisher. And then after that, we'll get into some politics and some buttery political goodness and whatnot. So I am BZ. You are in the Saloon. We're talking to Eric Thompson tonight, and I will be right back with Eric after this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people blinded by corrupt politicians, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud, through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network, for half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
This is Shannon Wright of The Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. Mike's not here, so I gotta talk fast. You gotta join us. Fall season. Getting ready to start up with a whole bunch of new stuff. News and food and politics and sports and entertainment and a whole bunch of stuff. But wait, Mike's coming. I gotta go. Remember, Shannon and Mike in the AM on SHR Media, Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. Make sure you tune in.
Featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American maggots won't. BZ is fundamentally changing America, one diaper at a time. Just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, where the speech is free, but the drinks are not. The Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night, commencing at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, where pushback is a requisite art form in and of itself. Let your ossicles be truly liberated when you listen to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, only on SHR Media Network. No ferrets were harmed in the making of this ad.
Join me, Jack Alexander, for the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast, as I take a unique outsider's look at the issues affecting the USA. I fearlessly take on the issues that everyone else is too scared to touch. The Jack Alexander Experiment podcast is available wherever good podcasts can be found, like Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcast. The Jack Alexander Experiment, because it's not a matter of left versus right, it's a matter of right versus wrong.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Featuring the effervescent contrarian Sackheads Clint, plus the unrestrained bulbosity of BZ, the Sackheads Against Tyranny is a real chat show. Doubling your late-night conservative talk show pleasure with double the hosts, you can listen every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. Please note, some contents may have settled during shipping. Member FDIC, batteries not included, warranty void in Montenegro.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are in the Saloon with BZ. Tonight, in the first hour, I am speaking to Eric Thompson. He's a radio show host. He created his own social media site, Magabook, M-A-G-A book, Magabook, all one word.com, magabook.com. And I am a member there. I signed up, and that's how I spoke to Eric, so that he's on the show tonight. And I wanted to talk to him about Magabook and this as well. I'll get to the question that I had for Eric about Twitter and President Trump. But in the process of looking you up on the internet, Eric Thompson, I discovered that there's a video. Oh, gosh. Let's see. Here we go.
Hi, my name's Eric Thompson. I am the founder of TNN, the True News Network. I've been on talk radio for quite a while, and it has become...
So, let's stop, because that's a recording and you're live. What's happening with TNN, Eric Thompson?
That was good. That was before Magabook. The news, because the Fox News has been shifting to the left, and I was... So before I launched Magabook, I'm thinking we got to have some type of news platform, right, where people can get true news. So I was going to do the True News Network, but the problem was as I started looking into it, because I'm always trying to figure out, is there really a need? You know, am I just trying to be a fifth wheel on a car that needs four?
Okay.
And so I thought, well, everybody got on YouTube, and so then everyone started being a news broadcaster on YouTube, and it got flooded, and I'm like, you know what? Even if I had a great network, it wouldn't have mattered, because everybody. I had a guy come by, for example, when he set up my business internet here. He said, you know what? I've been to 4 homes tonight, and all 4 are broadcasting on YouTube. I'm like, this is a residential area. I'm like, wow. So TNN was going to be the True News Network. I was going to try to give unfiltered news. I'm a conservative independent without any opinion. Just this is the news, but it didn't make sense because everybody was doing news, and I would have just been. As my wife calls it, another talking head, and so that's why TNN never. I had it ready to go, and then it didn't make sense, so I backed out of that.
Okay. Folks, there is still the site to go to, magabook.com, maga, M-A-G-A, book, B-O-O-K, obviously, .com. That's where I signed up, and I put my posts there, and that's where I spoke to Eric Thompson. I said that I would ask Eric a question after the break when we came back, and that's this. And it's interesting because there's a comment in the chat room at shrmedia.com. So, folks, I'm monitoring Facebook. I'm looking at the chat room there in Facebook, and I'm looking at the chat room at shrmedia.com. Jack in SHR chat made a very interesting observation. Before I get to that, though, I want to ask you, Eric Thompson, this question. President Trump is on Twitter. Jack Dorsey has already tagged one of his posts with, "This isn't the proper information. It needs a fact checker." Well, maybe my question is two-pronged. First, what would happen if President Trump left Twitter and went someplace else? Let's just start with that right now.
Twitter stock would fall 50% in 30 seconds. President Trump's the only reason why Twitter has an audience, really, because it's kind of like the gladiators with the Coliseum. You know, Trump when he got on there, then the war started, and everybody was able to join into Twitter and join the combat, and it's 24-hour combat around President Trump's tweets. So, but remember, there's a collective purpose that the tech has to prevent him from getting reelected. So even though he's their butter on the bread, they can't let him get reelected. And whatever they've got to do to discredit him, they're going to walk that fine line. But if they feel like if they feel like they're winning, or if President Trump is not going to get reelected, then I can see some really heavy suppression, because they really don't care in the end, because they have Trump arrangement syndrome, and this, the goal of winning is superseding
everything else.
Everything
else.
Yeah.
I've played this before. Folks listening to the show have heard it before. I'm going to play this again. People don't understand the incredible strength and power of social media. This is a guy named Dr. Robert Epstein talking to Senator Ted Cruz. Listen really, really carefully to Dr. Robert Epstein, who is not a conservative guy by any measure. Listen to what he says to Senator Cruz.
Background. You're not a Republican, and nor are you a conservative. Is that accurate?
That would be an understatement.
Yeah.
And indeed, you're the former editor-in-chief of Psychology Today.
Correct.
So you're a respected academic. You testified before this committee that Google's manipulation of votes gave at least 2.6 million additional votes to Hillary Clinton in the year 2016. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And I want to make sure I understand. You personally supported and voted for Hillary Clinton.
I was a very strong public supporter of Hillary Clinton, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not dismayed that people voted for her, but your testimony is that Google is, through bias in search results, manipulating voters in a way they're not aware of.
On a massive scale, and what I'm saying is that I believe in democracy, I believe in the free and fair election, more than I have any kind of allegiance to a candidate or a party.
And looking forward, if I
Okay, that's irregular in and of itself.
understood your testimony correctly, you said in subsequent elections, Google and Facebook and Twitter and big tech's manipulation could manipulate as many as 15 million votes in a subsequent election?
In 2020, if all these companies are supporting the same candidate, there are 15 million votes on the line that can be shifted without people's knowledge and without leaving a paper trail for authorities to trace.
Stop. 15 million votes manipulated by large social media. And here's the conundrum, and I've said this before. If you believe or think that Facebook or Google or YouTube or Twitter are manipulating votes, then draw up a warrant and serve it where? And then which server would you target? Do you think it's possible that you would ever find that information? And the answer is no. You would never find that information. So the big question is, Eric Thompson, 15 million votes on the line. Do you see this year in 2020, because You have to admit the leftists are like a cornered dog. They'll do anything right now. Do they pull out the 15 mil manipulation, Eric Thompson?
Well, they already are, because what they're doing is they are silencing people's voices, which limits the people, the independent that's looking for both sides, so they're not hearing both sides of the information. When you do the search on Google or YouTube trying to find information on, is socialism good or bad? What about Biden? You know, and everything in the top 2 pages of search, instead of being the most relevant, is all pro-leftist.
Yes.
Then you're never going to find see, journalism's dead in America. And for those of you listening, if you've been, we're fortunate to go to Germany and Austria and Israel and Jordan and Turkey. And, you know, and I've seen the golden stars around Germany where they killed Jewish people for no reason and took them away. And some guy came in later and marked in respect of the Jewish people that died every place that they were killed wrongly. But the thing about it is Facebook, Twitter, and Google cannot let President Trump get reelected.
No.
He's going to kill their H-1B. He'll kill their H-1B visas. Okay? He's going to kill the globalism. He's going to kill our access to, he's alienating China against the tech companies. So right now, a lot of people don't realize, you should, but you may not, that President Trump only won the election by 70,000 votes. Okay, he won Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania by a total of 70,000 votes. If he loses those states, then he's not president. So when we're sitting here going, okay, well, Trump's rallies are going to start again. But the thing about it is, a lot of the voting base for President Trump are older. They're passing away. Maybe they're not going to be able to vote. Maybe they're not able to vote. Maybe they're being displaced because of this pseudo virus or whatever. But what you're going to see right now, and if you go on, I don't go on Drudge Report anymore.
No, I don't either. No, Drudge can go to hell.
Yeah, I think he sold it.
He did.
And yeah, so if you go on there right now, you can see every Marxist, globalist, negative story right now. My wife's family, a couple of them were going to vote for President Trump, are literally texting her 24 hours a day because of CNN. Anger, hate, venom against President Trump on my wife's psyche, because you have the Marxists. You've got this Fauci now is saying, oh, wait a minute, it's not over yet. The COVID-19 is going to flare up again in the winter. They just announced in Fresno that the kids are going to have to wear masks all year in school. Well, so you're keeping people scared. And when they're scared, they want comfort.
Yes.
And then they go on Facebook and Twitter, and Trump's evil. And he's going to send in the conservatives with guns and kill them. And then the black people are going to be hunted down in the ghettos. And so it's this Saul Alinsky, rules for radicals, this personification of the Marxist doctrine, and even the KGB on how to demoralize a country before you take them over. So there's a lot of psychological warfare going on through the algorithms, through Facebook, through Twitter. And you asked earlier, they're hiding behind this social media law that says they're not accountable, but they're actually publishers, because they make billions of dollars, and they can take down ads because they think it's not good speech. So they are dictating what information is going out as a monopoly. So they are culpable for the fake stuff going through, but they hide behind a law that says, oh, Facebook, you're starting up, you're giving a free service, and we're going to make sure you can't get sued for what Johnny says to Sally in Mississippi. But we're way past that. Where we are in the AI, artificial intelligence, robotics wave of job displacement, basic universal income, the suppression of truth, this idea of open borders, this idea of not guaranteed, opportunities, but results. So that's why they give the kids trophies. Even if you don't ever win a game in Little League, you get a participation trophy. Colleges are now taking away A, B, C, D, E, or A, B, C, D, F. They basically say you pass.
Oh, that's too harsh and judgmental. Oh, come on.
I know. I know. So what they're doing is they're redefining what an American is, and this will fail, and it's all because of education and immigration. And we tip, as a Christian conservative, I'm always checking myself. I don't want to be cruel, I don't want to be misrepresenting God, but the problem is we become mushy, and so we're sitting here like, yeah, we have sanctuary state. That's an oxymoron. You can't have a sanctuary state if you have law and order. If you actually have Section 8 of the code, you can't have people living in a country illegally getting checked from Newsom for living in the state as an illegal alien, because we don't even call them illegal aliens anymore. We call them illegal immigrants. No, they're not. They didn't immigrate in. They ran across the border. They're aliens. So we are sitting here. Newsom's asking money from the government because of the COVID-19, as he's giving checks to illegal aliens who are living in our country, in our state, taking away resources from citizens' schools. So we have Fresno has some of the worst schools in America because most of our kids are legal alien children. And we just sit there going like, oh, I hope, MAGA. I'm a big President Trump supporter. I wasn't. I was a Ted Cruz supporter.
That's exactly with me. I was a Ted Cruz guy.
And I said, but I think, I was a big Reagan guy, but I think I've never seen a president keep his promises, from Israel to the moving the embassy to the enterprise zones for the Black Americans to women. He is actually kind of the model if you want a conservative to be president. Now, the problem is, because we're trying to be the nice guys, is we don't like when he tweets and says, oh, Rosie O'Donnell's fat and ugly. Now, I don't like that as a person, but I'm not electing a guy who's going to represent me as a Christian guy. I need someone that's going to say China's evil and socialism's not going to happen and the internet, you're evil, and I need someone who can fight. But then you got Romney now, who's obviously part of the deep state, that's going over he's now marching with people like a total buffoon.
God, yeah.
You remember Obamacare only exists because of John McCain did the magical thumbs down. So these rhinos are in the party, and we've got these, and so the education system has been killing us. It's an open wound, and people say, oh, I know, I don't like it. Well, it's killing us because the kids coming out of school have been told they may be transgender. They're told that socialism is the way to go. They're taking, they just took Christopher Columbus' statue down and threw it in a bay. So they're revising history, and we're just sitting there sending our kids to a school to people that we would never have coffee with. And then the kids are growing up to hate our country and to be part of the nanny state. And that's my concern is that we are, if we don't take the stand, stop immigration and do some radical things, assuming we can compensate for the voter fraud that's going to take place this election.
Oh, and it will.
I know. Well, think about it. Mail-in ballots. And, in California, they stole 6 seats by doing ballot harvesting.
Sure. Why not send people into a nursing home? Here, honey, sign this ballot.
Right. Yeah. Hey, guy, you don't have a job under the freeway. I'll give you 2 shots of heroin and some beer if you go to these 20 people and harass them to sign this ballot and bring it back to me. Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, and that's what they want for the nation.
I know. Then if it's a conservative, you go collect their ballots at the senior home and then you throw them away.
Right, because you're in charge of that. You are the sole determinant. Whoever goes in and places physical custody on a bunch of ballots at whatever facility, whatever home, whatever residence, whatever, you're in charge now of making sure those ballots get where they need to go.
But they have people embedded in the postal service that threw away a bunch of ballots. So I'm not a conspiracy guy, but you can look at the reality. I mean, as of right now, the Department of Justice is busting people that did voter fraud in 18. So it's rampant, And now we're dealing with this racial thing. We're dealing with corporations that are like trying to say white people are bad. So you got the racial division going. You got this, oh my goodness, COVID-19 is coming back. So we may have, like they just warned us in Fresno, you guys had a spike in cases since you reopened.
right.
We might have to shut you down again.
Here comes the fear porn. Stand by.
That's it. Yep. So at some point, I grew up in Iowa, so I was in the Marine Corps. At some point, you just have to say, and pardon my French, but screw you. I'm an autonomous, free will person in the United States of America under a constitution with unalienable rights, and I don't care right now what you think, because my rights don't come from you. So get out of my face, and that's why I get frustrated. Probably you can hear it, that the people, even though they have MAGA books to come to and other platforms, they just don't want to hear the fact that they're being manipulated by the software that's reading when you go to start a post on Facebook, the artificial intelligence is already determining where it's going to take you.
Let me ask you a question, Eric Thompson. In chat, Jack Alexander, who's a great dude, I have him on the show now and then. He lives in Australia and worked in the military, in the Australian military, with a lot of the U.S. Soldiers, which is another reason that he really loves America. In chat, he said the moment, let's see, in Twitter's response to Trump, Twitter said that they were a publisher, and with editorial bias, at that point, Twitter should have instantly lost protections. The moment Twitter proclaimed themselves a publisher, they should have lost those platform protections. I wasn't aware that Twitter had declared themselves a publisher.
I didn't either, but I mean they are. Anytime you have editors that are dealing with selling advertising, publishing, creating revenue, silencing speech, exalting speech, restricting, distorting, changing. So that they're not. If they said it, which was that would just be a outward confirmation of a reality that see what they do is, and if you guys haven't done it, go to do a search for Saul Alinsky, Rules for Radicals.
Yep.
One of his rules is you do simultaneous attacks on your enemy to where they can't get any traction. So we don't even know where to fight right now. We're not racist. I don't have COVID. I'm not wearing a mask. I don't have a problem with illegal aliens. I'm not a bigot. I'm not xenophobic. Hey, I don't care about a mosque. So we're sitting here as our national debt went up $5 trillion under President Trump now. If they want to do another. So there's all this stuff, and I call it noise. And the simplicity our founders said, we know Marxism, we know that we might turn into England in the future. So when they wrote the Constitution, and then the Federalists said, we're going to need some more protection. So let's go write the Bill of Rights. Let's go put in a confirmation of what should have been in the Constitution, that you can't suppress speech. No laws shall be passed. Speech, assembly, guns, worship, redress. So, yeah, the courts have said, even though it says the government shall pass no laws, they pass laws. And so this judicial activism, they're able to say, well, of course, they didn't have bazookas back in their days, so of course we have to limit guns. Well, now you've opened Pandora's box, because then they get to determine not just bazookas, but how many bullets should go in a magazine. Who should be able to buy bullets? Should you have a license? Well, there was someone that got killed with a gun. Everybody get upset. Oh, we're so upset. Okay, we're going to get rid of handguns in D.C. And it actually went all the way up through the courts, and the Supreme Court had to stop it, or they would have been successful in taking away part of the Second Amendment. So the founders did all they could to say that Congress shall not pass any laws, and yet they pass laws, and we allow it. So the Declaration of Independence says we at some point have to say the government that is set up is no longer representing us, so we abolish it. That's what they did with England. We have found now that the king is over. You guys are no longer on our side, And so because of our rights as being created by God and the pursuit of all of our happiness, we are going to abolish this form of government and start over. But we don't, because now we're divided because we've allowed Marxists, starting from the 40s up, to teach our children that Karl Marx has the best economic models, which is why it's the most popular college taught in finance and colleges in the U.S., Karl Marx. So you got Marxists coming out, you got snowflakes, you got social justice warriors, and then you got Alinsky who taught Hillary, and then Obama was mentored on it as a city organizer, and now here we are, and if we don't collectively take a stand, we literally are out of time. And I know they said that in 16, but because we haven't done anything, I always tell conservatives this, they don't like it. Every day that you live, every day that you think you're winning as a conservative, you're losing. Because more students are going to college and learning to be Marxist. The public school system is growing up kids that don't like us, and they're fearful of being around people.
It's a leftist factory.
It is. I call it a Marxist portal into our children's minds.
We're at war, folks. This is a war. This is absolutely a war. It's a binary choice now. And I've said this also. The choice now is either the people who love this country win, or the people that despise this country win. There is no, and I said at the beginning, and I've said it for a long time, and it's definitely emphasized now, I'm done with bipartisanship. I'm done with compromise. What's the compromise portion for killing a baby? Kind of killing a baby, maybe sort of killing a baby. There is no bipartisanship and compromise anymore. Eric Thompson, thanks for being here. Question for you. Will you come back to the Saloon, sir?
Oh, anytime. I appreciate it. I enjoyed it.
That's Eric Thompson, folks. I got to go to a break. We're going to go to the SHR Media Special Report right after this. Eric Thompson, thank you for being here tonight. God bless, sir. Take care. Be safe.
You too. Take care.
I ran out of time. I always run out of time. That's the nature of the beast. I'll be right back after this, though.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Southern Sense is conservative talk with Annie, the radio chick you bellows as host, and C.S. Bennett co-host. Informative, fun, irreverent, and politically incorrect. You never know where they'll go, but you'll love the journey. Annie is a top conservative host on Top Talk Radio and features some of the finest guests packed with important politicians and newsmakers. Listen every Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, noon to 3 Pacific, on the SHR Media Network. Remember, Southern Sense is common sense.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York. The Lid himself, Jeff Dunnett. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunnett.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Good evening. Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show is featured on the SHR Media Network every Tuesday and Thursday night for 2 hours at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific. Whilst manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, BZ continues to radically change the world of leftists, one diaper at a time. Stop balancing your checkbooks. Stop cleaning your fish tanks. The Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show is your magnet for truth, justice, obesity, a darkened studio, and late-night freedom. No United States of America freedoms were abridged in the making of this ad.
This is Shannon Wright,
And this is Michael Wright.
reminding you to listen
To The Right Way with Shannon and Mike.
every Monday through Thursday,
7 to 9 a.m.
right here on
SHRmedia.com.
shrmedia.com.
Join me, Jack Alexander, for the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast, as I take a unique outsider's look at the issues affecting the USA. I fearlessly take on the issues that everyone else is too scared to touch. The Jack Alexander Experiment podcast is available wherever good podcasts can be found, like Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcast. The Jack Alexander Experiment, because it's not a matter of left versus right, it's a matter of right versus wrong.
After 6 years covering terror and corruption, the Unpleasant Blind Guy is making a change. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker and YouTube through SHR Media and on the Western Free Radio Network as I team up with Jeff Mitchell, host of the English Defense Elite radio show on blogtalkradio.com. Check show pages for airtimes. It's the Unpleasant Blind Guy.
On EDL Radio.
There's
No surrender, ever.
because truth is not always pleasant.
Featuring the effervescent contrarian Sackheads Clint, plus the unrestrained bulbosity of BZ, the Sackheads Against Tyranny is a real chat show. Doubling your late-night conservative talk show pleasure with double the hosts, you can listen every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. Please note, some contents may have settled during shipping. Member FDIC, batteries not included, warranty voided Montenegro.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it's the beginning of the second hour. So, welcome back to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. You can follow me on Twitter at BZEP, at BZEP. You can friend, follow, and like the SHR Media Facebook page and subscribe to the SHR Media YouTube channel. Click notifications, give our videos a big thumbs up. We got great hosts, great videos, great shows. And are you a supporter of the Second Amendment like I am? You can join the USGOA, which is the U.S. Gun Owners Association, on Facebook. If you want to know about gun reviews, information, and also updates and articles, news about the Second Amendment, firearms in general, USGOA on Facebook, U.S. Gun Owners Association. I heard this, and now tonight I'm going to be going into a special report. Before we go there, I saw this, I heard this on Twitter. Now I will go into the special report, but this is too good for me to pass up. I didn't save it, and I don't know how long it's going to be on Twitter, because you know them, they'll take a lot of the stuff down. I found a wonderful little snowflake. Here's a tete-a-tete with a little female snowflake, and listen to what she says. She is stressed.
Oh, I'm not exactly the voice that people need to be hearing right now.
Really?
In fact, I need more confirmation that this is real. I've gotten some, but I need more confirmation that this is real.
Yeah?
Trump supporters got an email that said that this email is for patriots only. You've been identified as one of President Trump's fiercest and most loyal defenders, and according to your donor file, you'd make an excellent addition to the Trump army. It goes on to tell them that they would get a limited edition camo key.
The Trump army. Wait a minute. If I had a producer, if I had a producer, when I said the Trump army, you would have heard. But I don't have a producer, so let's continue.
Give America a great hat. To let them know that you are the president's first line of defense when it comes to fighting off the liberal mob. Yeah. I don't know if you know. Hitler made Jews wear yellow stars. Oh no. This feels like the reverse of that.
Because it's all about the feelings. I drink your liberal leftist tears. Okay. All right. Enough of that. Let's go into this.
This is an SHR Media Network special report.
And it goes something like this. We know that a single death is a tragedy, and 1 million deaths is a statistic. Well, you have to ask yourselves, who said that? Well, that's right. It's Joseph Stalin. Let me put it another way for tonight. A single death in a nursing facility is a tragedy. 6,000 plus deaths in nursing facilities of Wuhan 19, that's a statistic. So let me cut to the chase up front. In my opinion, New York State Governor Andrew Cuomo has blood on his hands. Now, why would that be? For taking the most virulent global pandemic disease of 2020 and placing people infected with same, not just suggesting, but mandating it with the force of the entire state of New York behind said mandate, and no, not placing, but forcibly injecting people into nursing facilities within the state of New York. Facilities that, by the way, couldn't say no. Although he said they could, but that was a lie. The elderly, here's the deal, the elderly, the infirm, those very same people who in their early years had worked really hard to allow New York State Governor Andrew Cuomo to attain the exalted position that he holds today and stand upon their work as in Governor Cuomo, you didn't build that. They did. Their grief, their tears, their labor, and their sweat in order to obtain his current position. He used them like a Kleenex or a Kotex, and when he was done, he cast you aside. Those people who paid their taxes, they paid their dues, they obeyed the laws, they built ships, flew planes, poured concrete, they laid bricks, they fixed cars, they took care of children, they started small businesses, they repaired toilets, constructed skyscrapers, they drove locomotives, they dug ditches, they stitched wounds, they designed clothes, they conducted brain surgery, they repaired broken windshields, they replaced HVAC systems, they knitted socks, they changed diapers, and they fought wars for America, serving their nation and serving their communities. And now, those people in their later years, those infirm, those who require the greatest amount of care, those who did, in fact, pay every bill, honor every debt required of them, the most absolute, most vulnerable individuals amongst us, the weakest amongst us, the most susceptible to disease, the least able to fight back physically, genetically, and psychologically, they found themselves placed directly into harm's way by an individual who knew better. And I'll prove it tonight. Work with me here. Now, first we know that Wuhan 19 deaths, the Kung flu, and if you don't like me saying that, couldn't care less. We know that these deaths are being padded. They're being padded for money. That is to say, 3 times the federal cash paid for a Wuhan 19 death as opposed to any other. And there was a doctor that came out to spill the beans on this.
Next guest is a doctor and state senator in Minnesota who is deeply troubled by the CDC's latest guidance for counting COVID deaths. Dr. Scott Jensen joins me now. Doctor, I want to read for our viewers what the CDC says in part about how to count COVID deaths relating to that last issue we just raised.
Money.
In cases where a definite diagnosis of COVID cannot be made, but is suspected or likely, like the circumstances are compelling with a reasonable degree of certainty, it is acceptable to report COVID-19 on a death certificate as probable or presumed.
Money.
So, doctor, what's the problem with that?
Money.
Well, in short, it's ridiculous. I spent some time earlier today just going through the CDC's manual on how to complete death certificates and the parts that were specifically written for physicians. And in that manual, it talks of precision and specificity, and that's what we were trained with. The determination of the cause of death is a big deal. It has impact on estate planning. It has impact on future generations. And the idea that we're going to allow people to massage and sort of game the numbers is a real issue, because we're going to undermine the trust. And right now, as we see politicians doing things that aren't necessarily motivated on fact and science, the public's their trust in politicians is already wearing thin.
And Doctor, in that same CDC guidance sheet on COVID-19, it references the fact that basically this is a judgment call for doctors on how to fit. I read it. What goes on line 1, and then what goes on line 2, and what goes on the final line as far as contributing factors and ultimate cause of death. But they concede that it is a judgment call. Again, why is that not correct?
Well, let's just take influenza. If I have a patient died a month ago, had fever, cough, and died after 3 days, and maybe had been an elderly, fragile individual, and there happened to be an influenza epidemic around our community, I wouldn't put influenza on the death certificate. I've never been encouraged to do so. I would put probably respiratory arrest would be the top line, and the underlying cause of disease would be pneumonia, and in the contributing factors, I might well put emphysema or congestive heart failure. But I would never put influenza down as the underlying cause of death, and yet that's what we're being asked to do here.
But wait.
Dr. Fauci was asked about the COVID death count today. Here's what he said in part.
What do you say to those folks who are making the claim without really any evidence that these deaths are being padded, that the number of COVID-19 deaths are being padded?
You will always have conspiracy theories when you have very challenging public health crises. They are nothing but distractions.
Right. Money.
Conspiracy theories, Doctor? So you're engaging in conspiracy theories. What do you say to Dr. Fauci tonight?
Well, I would remind him that anytime healthcare intersects with dollars, it gets awkward.
Money.
Right now, Medicare has determined that if you have a COVID-19 admission to the hospital, you'll get paid $13,000. If that COVID-19 patient goes on a ventilator, you get $39,000.
Three times
as much.
Yep.
Nobody can tell me after 35 years in the world of medicine that sometimes those kinds of things impact on what we do. Some physicians really have a bent towards public health, and they will put down influenza or whatever because that's their preference. I try to stay very specific, very precise. If I know I've got pneumonia, that's what's going on the death certificate. I'm not going to add stuff just because it's convenient. I think that it's not a conspiracy theory at all.
Yeah. So you reject what he said?
Absolutely.
Seems pretty succinct to me. So clear-thinking people should already have all the bells and klaxons going off in their brains about information surrounding Wuhan 19. First, we knew that New York was over its head. Didn't it seem that way to you from the very get-go? It couldn't begin to cope with what was before its very eyes. New York was told to prepare, but it decided to ignore its very own study. And it goes like this. Here's a headline from the New York Post. We didn't have to have ventilator shortage. Leaders chose not to prep for the pandemic. Several years ago, after learning that the Empire State stockpile of medical equipment had 16,000 fewer ventilators than the 18,000 New Yorkers would need in a severe pandemic, state public health leaders came to a fork in the road. Now, they could have chosen to buy more ventilators to back up the supplies hospitals maintained. Instead, Health Commissioner Howard Zucker assembled a task force for rationing the ventilators they already had. In 2015, that task force came up with rules that would be imposed when ventilators run short. Patients assigned a red code would have highest access, and other patients would be assigned green, yellow, or blue, the worst, depending on the triage officer's decision. Well, wait. Who was governor of the state of New York in 2015? That's right, Andrew Cuomo. In 2015, the state could have purchased the additional 16,000 needed ventilators for $36,000 apiece, or a total of $576 million. Now, that's a lot of money, but in hindsight, spending 0.5% of the budget to prepare for a pandemic was the right thing to do. Please note, folks, conservatives, anybody within the sound of my voice, this wasn't Trump's purvey. He wasn't even president. Only one person, Andrew Cuomo. So Cuomo then decided it was good form to blame the president for not providing a sufficient amount of ventilators to help New York State residents. But in New York, rationing ventilators should be unnecessary. The state knew of the shortage, had the money, and should have bought the life-saving equipment instead of making a plan for who should live or die. Yeah, that's called a lesson for the future. New York was overwhelmed, but they had the warning. It was there. They chose to ignore the warning. They were unprepared. They could have decided to be prepared. They chose not to. That was an active, affirmative decision. That wasn't a passive one. There were consequences. President Trump had absolutely nothing to do with those decisions. Another story from the New York Post. Dozens of bodies found in U-Haul trucks outside New York City funeral home. This was a story written, when is this? April 29th. Police found dozens of bodies being stored in unrefrigerated trucks outside a Brooklyn funeral home and lying on the facility's floor Wednesday, law enforcement told the Post. Between 40 and 60 bodies, your loved ones, were discovered either stacked up in U-Haul box trucks outside the Andrew Clockley Funeral Services in Flatlands or on the building's floor. After neighbors reported a foul odor around the property, sources said. The corpses were stacked on top of each other in the trucks. Fluid leaking from inside created a terrible smell and caused neighboring store owners to call the police, according to sources. We heard then that plaintive cry from the woman. I played it before, and if it'll play for me tonight, I'll do it again. When she discovered her own reality. This is again from the New York Post. Woman slams de Blasio after relative's body left at home for hours. A grieving Harlem food truck owner was forced to ice her husband's corpse as she searched for someone to retrieve his body several hours after he died from suspected coronavirus. Now, let me see if I can get this to play. You should hear this. Here we go.
I say shame on you, Mayor de Blasio. I say shame on you. I know you, Mayor de Blasio. I know your wife. I know your family. You've come to Harlem. I have served you. I am the owner of Harlem Seafood Soul. You know I know you, Mayor de Blasio. And this doesn't make any sense. If you gotta designate somebody to come and get these bodies out of here, these people that die at home. People are dying at home at an alarming rate. How dare you make us have to deal with that? After living there with the body for days. How dare you, Mayor de Blasio? You can't blame that shit on Trump. You can't blame that shit on Cuomo. That's all you, Mayor de Blasio. This is our city. And we're being treated like shit.
And she's right. So let's get specific now. On April 14th, Governor Cuomo said, this is an admission. He knew this. This is knowledge. Up front. He said, Governor Cuomo said nursing homes are the optimal feeding ground for the virus. Governor Cuomo knew this. It's archived on the internet. I found it. Okay, here's a New York Daily News story talking about that. Cuomo calls nursing homes a feeding frenzy for coronavirus as 540 die in New York. This is as of April 18th. Governor Cuomo called nursing homes the biggest concern for New York authorities battling the coronavirus pandemic, even as the lower overall total of 540 people died in the past day. This is a quote. Nursing homes are the single biggest fear in all of this. Vulnerable people in one place, it is the feeding frenzy for this virus. He said it. It's there. He knew it. That was a tacit acknowledgement. Knowing this, saying this, what did New York State Governor Andrew Cuomo decide to do? He forced nursing facilities to accept Wuhan 19 patients in his policy. Newsday said nursing homes can't reject patients just over the coronavirus. New York State's nursing homes cannot reject newly released hospital patients solely because they tested positive for the novel coronavirus, a new state directive says. The order raised concerns in an industry where elderly and frail residents have the lowest survival rate for the disease. 5-year-olds can see this coming. So Governor Cuomo himself told facilities they had to accept Wuhan 19 patients. This is again from the New York Post. Nursing homes have no right to reject coronavirus patients, Cuomo says. New York's nursing homes weren't allowed to challenge a controversial order to admit patients with the coronavirus, Governor Andrew Cuomo said, even though it's been blamed for spreading the deadly disease among residents. This is a quote from him. They don't have a right to object. That's the rule. And that's the regulation, and they have to comply with that. And the regulation is common sense. If you can't provide adequate care, and you can't have the patient in your facility, and that's your base fiduciary obligation, I would say ethical obligation, then it's also your legal obligation. Well, that wasn't enough. So Governor Andrew Cuomo decided to demand more compliance. Another New York Post article says, Cuomo doubles down on ordering nursing homes to admit coronavirus patients. So he doubled down in the state's controversial directive ordering nursing homes to admit COVID-19 patients. The governor, who himself said that nursing homes are a feeding frenzy for the deadly coronavirus, said the facilities can't challenge a state regulation forcing them to admit patients with a contagion. Stop right there. That is knowledge aforehand. He's going to soon display, consciousness of guilt, because later on he's going to say, and I have the articles to prove it, that he had no idea that this existed, that law existed. But he said, remember this, the nursing homes are a feeding frenzy. He said the facilities can't challenge a state regulation forcing them to admit patients. So he knew by saying that the facilities can't challenge that state regulation, that means he knows it was a state regulation, because he's going to later come out and lie and say, oh, I didn't know that. Well, wait. Wuhan 19 is going to sweep through nursing facilities like a whirlwind. He believed it. He said it. He knew it. Yet he made the statement demanding it continue to occur. So yes, Governor Cuomo knew exactly what he was doing, and he was aware of every movement regarding New York State nursing facilities. So there was the CEO of a hard-hit Brooklyn nursing home where 55 patients have died from the coronavirus in just one facility. He'd been warning state health department officials for weeks that he had staffing and equipment issues, and he got little help. This is a quote from him. There's no way for us to prevent the spread under these conditions. He wrote in an email to the department, but here's the crux of the biscuit. He said he asked to move some patients to the makeshift wards at Manhattan's Javits Center and aboard the city-docked USNN Comfort amid the pandemic. So what was he told? Well, he was told those two spots were receiving only patients from hospitals. He said, I made specific requests to transfer patients, and it didn't happen. There weren't options. These are hospital facilities built quickly on the order of President Trump, an entire military ship, one of only two in existence, devoted solely to New York City, ignored, unused, turned down. These facilities torn down. The ship sailed away for lack of need. Yet the need somehow continued to place Cuomo determined the need then was to place, fiery, virulent Wuhan 19 virus patients into the closed buildings of those persons with the least capacity to fight the damn virus. Oh, and in direct contravention of federal law. But you didn't hear about that, did you? Medicare chief. This is from transunion.com. Medicare chief. Cuomo's nursing home order did not follow federal guidelines. The federal government's top official overseeing nursing homes said Governor Cuomo's executive order in late March that directed the admittance of coronavirus patients from hospitals to nursing facilities did not follow agency guidance. Cuomo insisted that the original order regarding nursing homes was aligned with the Trump administration's policy. But a person named Serena Verna, head of the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, said Wednesday that's not the case. Speaking of case, do you see what we're building here? Do you see what I'm doing here? Do you see what I'm trying to do? I'm building a case. Under no circumstances should a hospital discharge a patient to a nursing home that is not prepared to take care of those patients' needs. The federal guidelines are absolutely clear already on this. So we see, all right, Governor Cuomo we know, just by listening to that, we know what Governor Cuomo's response is going to be pretty soon, don't we? So Cuomo's March 25th nursing home order didn't specifically say nursing homes should only accept recovering coronavirus patients if they were safely able to do so. That's a talking point he used repeatedly in recent weeks. The order said all nursing homes must comply with the expedited receipt of residents returning from hospitals to nursing homes. It emphasized no resident shall be denied readmission or admission to the nursing home solely based on a confirmed or suspected diagnosis of COVID-19. Already, Governor Cuomo was starting to say, it wasn't me, it's not me, it's never been me, and I'm not responsible. Bullshit.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
Hey, are you guys listening? This is Shannon from Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM on SHR Media. I know you've been wondering where we are and what's been going on. Well, folks, that's right, we're back. So please join us 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday on SHR Media, on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Spotify, and Facebook Live at 11 a.m. on Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM at Facebook. You don't want to miss a minute. We've got lots of guests, lots of segments, and lots of interesting things. And let's face it, there's nowhere for you to go, so you might as well tune in. Again, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. We're back live on the air on SHR Media, 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday, audio and Facebook Live, audio and video. Yes, we are going to do video. Facebook Live, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. Hope to see you soon.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capital, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
It is he that is me. bringing perspective from across the sea. Join me, Jack Alexander, 4 days a week for the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast, as I take a unique outsider's look at the news and issues affecting life and liberty here in the USA. I'll show you what the mainstream media refuses to. Politics, border security, defense, healthcare, travel, nothing is off limits. Catch the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast each Monday to Thursday on Facebook, YouTube, and everywhere good podcasts can be found. Also, check out the website www.jackalexanderexperiment.com.
Southern Sense is conservative talk with Annie, the radio chick you balance as host, and C.S. Bennett co-host. Informative, fun, irreverent, and politically incorrect. You never know where they'll go, but you'll love the journey. Annie is a top conservative host on Top Talk Radio and features some of the finest guests packed with important politicians and newsmakers. Listen every Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, noon to 3 Pacific, on the SHR Media Network. Remember, Southern Sense is common sense.
After 6 years covering terror and corruption, the Unpleasant Blind Guy is making a change. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker and YouTube through SHR Media and on the Western Free Radio Network as I team up with Jeff Mitchell, host of the English Defense League radio show on blogtalkradio.com. Check show pages for airtimes. It's the Unpleasant Blind Guy.
On ADL Radio.
There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it's the final 25 minutes here at the Saloon. For the first hour, I spoke to Eric Thompson, the Eric Thompson radio show, and also the creator of Megabook, Megabook, Megabook. Going to have him back because I didn't get to speak to him about just a fraction of the stuff. Again, as per normal, ton of stuff that I wish that I'd spoken to him about. If you're on Facebook, by the way, and you like firearms and the Second Amendment, you're pro-firearm, pro-Second Amendment, join the USGOA, the U.S. Gun Owners Association, on Facebook. The USGOA, a great place to get articles about the Second Amendment, about freedom, and about firearms as well. In the second hour, I'm doing an SHR Media special report, and it has to do with Governor Cuomo. And Governor Cuomo's decision to essentially end up killing, in my opinion, the elderly in New York nursing homes. Because, quite frankly, statistics don't lie.
This is an SHR Media Network special report.
So nursing facilities in New York weren't ready. They weren't prepared with appropriately trained staff. They didn't have the requisite equipment. Well, that didn't matter to Governor Cuomo. Equipment? He wasn't going to assist them. This is again from the NewYorkPost.com. New York Governor Cuomo says, quote, "It's not our job to provide PPE to nursing homes." PPE, personal protective equipment. Governor Cuomo insisted it's not our job to provide coronavirus-ravaged nursing homes with personal protective equipment, even as more than 3,000 patients have lost their lives in facilities ordered by his administration to take in COVID-19 patients. He said, we've been helping them with more PPE, but again, it's not our job. Well, he ended up being pressed on the coronavirus patients that were not kept out of the facilities, which treat the elderly and a lot of other vulnerable populations. People don't go there just because they're old. Sometimes they need a place to convalesce. There's nobody else to take care of them, and they're younger. They don't have to be in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. Sometimes people need an area, need people to look after them as they heal from, fill in the blank, some kind of an accident. This is what he said. Pressed on why they weren't kept out of the facilities, Cuomo said, you're going to be out of business. If you're not providing your staff with the right equipment, you're out of business. He said, that we can do. I see a trend. I see Governor Andrew Cuomo making the active decision to place Wuhan 19 patients in New York nursing facilities where the weakest live in small little enclosed spaces. I've been there before. I've been in rooms where you'll have 20 patients lined up bed to bed to bed. And so he doubled down on that demand. And then he chides these facilities for not ponying up their own PPE, or as he states, I'll gladly assist with closing your business. So the situation in New York, that's a warning. One that was clearly heard by the administration. There was a specific administrator in Pennsylvania who took her, air quotes, her own mother out of a nursing facility after making the same order in Pennsylvania as New York Governor Cuomo. Do as I say, not as I do. Only the little people have to obey me. Well, I'm not going to obey me. I'm going to remove my own elderly mother from nursing homes that I mandated people put Wuhan 19 patients into. Who was that Pennsylvania person? Pennsylvania Health Secretary Rachel Levine. Her mother moved out of a personal care home with the health secretary's help after Levine ordered all nursing homes and long-term facilities in the state of Pennsylvania to accept coronavirus patients from hospitals. Good for thee, not for me. So what she said was, my mother requested, and my sister and I, as her children, complied to move her to another location during the COVID-19 outbreak. So then what happened is that ABC 27 found out about that. They found out what she'd done. So the translation was now, unless discovered, she was never going to, she air quotes, Levine was never going to tell anybody that she and what she'd done. Lying by omission, purposely, consciousness of guilt. Remember that phrase. I'm going to be using it later. Imagine that. So if she gets the exception, why not? Why not Cuomo? Cuomo is building up his excuses at this time. Well, what happened is that, here's something from, I believe this is Fox News, if I'm not mistaken.
Now for states that enacted those no right of refusal orders for COVID-19 positive patients, the specter of investigation and liability looms large. NJ.com having this to say tonight about New Jersey's policy. Despite the governor's criticism of nursing home operators, the long-term care facility in New Jersey with the most deaths is the state-run Veterans Memorial Home in Paramus, which as of Monday reported 79 dead and 283 residents testing positive for COVID-19. Let's talk this through now with the former Secretary of Health and Human Services, Dr. Tom Price. Mr. Secretary, good to see you.
Hey, Mike, great to be with you. Thank you.
Is it time for a full-blown federal investigation of what went wrong in American nursing homes during COVID-19?
Yes.
Well, there clearly needs to be an investigation about what occurred. We know that seniors, especially those with comorbidities and immunologically compromised systems, are at much greater risk. But if you follow the science and you follow the medicine in this, it just doesn't make any sense to put individuals who are infected or have been infected in near term time frame with those who aren't. And if that is indeed what happened, as we heard the nurse describe, I think from Massachusetts, then that's the wrong medical treatment for those individuals. The consequence of that will play out, obviously, but it just breaks your heart when you see things that obviously likely didn't have to have occurred.
Likely didn't have to have occurred. Well, this was a positive decision made by all of these people, including Governor Cuomo. Over 4,300 virus patients sent to New York nursing homes, AP counts. This is only as of, let's see, what is this, May 22nd. More than 4,300 recovering coronavirus patients were sent to New York's already vulnerable nursing homes under a controversial state directive that was ultimately scrapped in criticisms. It was accelerating the state's and the nation's deadliest outbreaks. And that was according to a count by the Associated Press. Now, as I mentioned earlier, weren't there alternative locations available for Wuhan 19 patients besides nursing facilities? Didn't President Trump build some spots? Didn't he go out of his way to do that for the state of New York? Well, of course there were. Some were not even used. This is from the New York Post. 21 million, Brooklyn Field Hospital never saw a patient amid coronavirus pandemic. A roughly $21 million Brooklyn Field Hospital authorized by the de Blasio administration at the height of the coronavirus pandemic opened and closed without ever seeing one patient. The Brooklyn Cruise Terminal in Red Hook was one of several sites across the 5 boroughs converted into a medical facility as a way to relieve the city's overburdened hospital system as the COVID-19 crisis mounted. De Blasio announces plans on March 31st. Now, that's a day after the hospital ship Comfort gets into New York Harbor to aid in the coronavirus fight. And the $20.8 million Red Hook Field Hospital had an estimated capacity for 750 beds. The USS or the USNN Comfort was also available, but it was unused. Now the pressure begins to build on Governor Cuomo. This is Fox News story. Coronavirus amidst New York's unused hospital beds and ventilators, critics point to mass waste and mismanagement. On Governor Cuomo's watch, while New York has weathered the brunt of coronavirus infections and deaths, the state apparent hoarding of medical supplies and the millions spent on equipment that never arrived, as well as unused hospitals and beds, have some people questioning what went wrong. Would you be calmly questioning what went wrong if that was your mom or your dad who died? Your parents, your grandparents, somebody you knew and loved. Now, knowing all that, Governor Cuomo, I'm saying again, he had a decision to make. But he knew what the outcome would be, inserting a hot virus into the populations of the weakest New York citizens. Wouldn't a normal individual with Mark I, Model I common sense realize that? Now, this is from the same story. Meanwhile, nursing home managers have been left bewildered as to why the empty facilities weren't made available for ill and suspect coronavirus patients who weren't able to be aptly isolated from others deemed vulnerable to severe infection or death. They wondered. Do you think they were in their office going, I'm wondering? No, they were tearing their hair out because their patients, their clients were dying in front of their face. Oh, but wait, there's more. It's much worse than that. The death counts continued to build. And again, another article from the New York Post. Over 1,700 more coronavirus deaths reported in New York nursing homes. This was May 5th. The coronavirus suspected death toll among New York's nursing home residents exploded by an additional 1,700 fatalities as Governor Andrew Cuomo sought bipartisan backlash, or caught bipartisan backlash, for his administration's edict that his facilities take in COVID-19 patients. That's an order from him. Any logical human being, a 5-year-old, could probably say that. So as the writing of this article, the tally was 4,800 on the 5th of May, as the State Department of Health disclosed for the first time not just confirmed coronavirus deaths, but fatalities in which the deceased was never tested, despite showing telltale symptoms. The numbers we are presenting as part of our review confirmed and presumed coronavirus deaths that many facilities were not previously reporting. The numbers. Yeah, the numbers. Sources told the Post that even the revised figures failed to capture the true scope of the horror because stricken nursing home residents who die in hospitals are not counted towards the healthcare facilities' tallies. So he said, Cuomo, just to be clear, I'd take all of these numbers with a grain of salt. What does a presumed death mean, right? How do you presume it to be the coronavirus? So he scoffs at the stats as they sparked a renewed barrage of criticism over his handling of nursing homes amid the pandemic. So Cuomo scoffs. He has the luxury of being able to scoff. He has a lot of luxuries. He still has a job. He's still making a paycheck, while others are not. During all of this, the bodies piled up. Your mom, your dad, your parents, your grandparents. Journalist Glenn Greenwald wrote on May 2nd, I don't think there are easy or pat answers to how civil liberties should be balanced with the outbreak of this new lethal, highly contagious virus. But what's worrisome? Understatement, Glenn. Understatement. What's worrisome is that there is no balancing going on. It's full, unlimited, absolute authority in the hands of governors. I guess that would be unchecked authority as well. But the heat was on, and Governor Cuomo was the focus. So Cuomo made a public statement. So he says, no one should be prosecuted. Isn't this convenient? Isn't this convenient? This is May 18th. Now Cuomo says, nobody should be prosecuted for coronavirus deaths in New York, including those in nursing homes. So he addresses the state's early response to the outbreak, and he said nobody should be prosecuted for those who died, noting that older people were most vulnerable. Consciousness of guilt. Remember that phrase? I told you that earlier. Consciousness of guilt. Knew that older people were most vulnerable. He knew that when he made the edict. 5-year-olds know that. Isn't that convenient, since the focus was now on him? And could Governor Andrew Cuomo have been any more dismissive? Yeah, consciousness of guilt. His guilt. Then it starts to build even maybe a little bit faster, and it gets better. Bet you didn't hear about this one. Cuomo granted immunity to nursing home executives after big money campaign donation. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, who signed legislation granting hospital and nursing home executives immunity from lawsuits related to the novel coronavirus last month. Now, this story came out May 27th. So in April, Cuomo was taking the cash. He received a big money boost from a powerful healthcare industry group, according to a new report. The article, published in the socialist website Jacobin and republished by The Guardian in the UK. The Guardian in the UK. Not here. Reports the New York State Democrat Committee, then backing Cuomo's primary run in 2018, received more than $1 million from the Greater New York Hospital Association, a lobbying group for hospital systems, some of which own, wait for it, nursing homes.
Tammy, he's trying to get politics out of it by blaming the president's CDC. Is he right?
No, that was a lie. This is what's so obscene about this dynamic. The number you mentioned, give people perspective. Almost 6,000 people in nursing homes, twice the number of September 11th. And this guy issued an order that was the opposite, effectively, of what the CMS, part of the federal government, issued regarding guidance for nursing homes. They specifically said that, in fact, if someone is very ill, they should be removed and put into a hospital. The dynamic where a nursing home could accept someone was if and what they would want is that if they happen to be in a hospital where there was a COVID case, not that that person was the patient. And then at the same time, of course, when he issued his March 25th guidance, Cuomo, he also had the rule that visitors and family would not be allowed inside in the name of stopping the spread of the virus, and yet had an order where he prohibited nursing homes from being able to know if someone had the virus, Brian. He made it impossible. Right, you were not allowed to test or ask.
If that isn't obvious, if that isn't consciousness of guilt, if that isn't by design, I don't know what is. Did you hear what Tammy Bruce said? Correct. More people died in New York nursing facilities than died on September 11th. Because if Governor Cuomo couldn't hold himself accountable, how could he hold the nursing facilities accountable? We know how. We know why. Big money, folks. Big money. Big donations. $2.3 million. Headline, revealed Governor Cuomo quietly gave legal immunity to nursing home executives from coronavirus lawsuits after raking in $2.3 million in campaign cash from the industry. But we already knew this as of April 23rd. We knew this. Coronavirus deaths at U.S. nursing homes, long-term facilities, reach over 10,000. The Minot Daily News said, of all places, they covered it. Who sent COVID-19 positive patients into nursing homes? 1/3 of reported coronavirus deaths in the United States, according to the New York Times reporting, are of nursing home residents or workers. Nursing homes accounted for a majority of deaths in heavily hit states. When asked about nursing home policy in late April, Governor Andrew Cuomo professed ignorance. That's what he said. He professed ignorance. 2 weeks later, on May 9th, after 46 days in effect, he reversed it. He's already told you, and I've presented the evidence to you tonight, consciousness of guilt. He knew this aforehand. He knew it before he placed loved ones. He put them in jeopardy by injecting people with the most deadly pandemic virus in all of 2020. Now, there's a guy named Michael Goodwin. He wrote in the New York Post. This is the first of 2 articles that I found from him. Blame governors for the coronavirus deaths in nursing homes. An article in Nowhere magazine several years ago explored the ways ancient cultures dispatched the elderly, a practice known as scenecide. That name made me shudder. Historians judging the American experiment during the coronavirus pandemic will excoriate our barbaric failure to protect the elderly. We think of ourselves as civilized, but mindless policies and bureaucratic indifference turned many homes, many nursing homes, and rehabilitation centers into killing fields. At least 28,000 residents and workers in long-term care facilities already have died from the virus, according to the New York Times. And then there's this. The states with the most nursing home deaths, New York and New Jersey, didn't make the list because of so many other deaths, yet more than 10,000 people died in their facilities. Here's a stat for you. The 5,500 nursing home deaths in New York are more than the total deaths in all other states except New Jersey. Why would that be? Okay, so Cuomo defends his directive for more than 6 weeks. He finally reversed it. But he said he ruled that patients must test negative before hospitals can send them to nursing homes. Yet Cuomo insisted that his policy worked. Okay, if more than 5,000 people dead is success, then what does failure look like? Blame governors, not Trump. You know, the same people who are blaming President Trump. Goodwin also wrote in a subsequent article, "This nursing home disaster is on you, Governor Cuomo." 2 weeks ago, Governor Cuomo was first asked about his policy that forced nursing homes to admit patients infected with the coronavirus. Well, that's a good question, he says. I don't know. On Tuesday, Cuomo was asked about a report from the AP that his team had added more than 1,700 deaths to the count. Well, I don't know the details, frankly, said the governor. Well, whose responsibility is to know the details? Governor? Trump's? This is life and death. Then this, and again this points, folks, to consciousness of guilt. Two other things Cuomo said also bear remembering. He allowed that we did some very harsh things to nursing homes that, frankly, I wasn't comfortable with. Then he cited the order barring visitors for the last 2 months. Yeah, it was harsh. It was harsh for the families who never saw their loved ones again before the virus killed them. By that same token, those families want to know why in the world the state would bar them from nursing homes but simultaneously impose infected patients on the same damn facilities. It wasn't President Trump who was responsible for the New York nursing facility catastrophe. It was Governor Andrew Cuomo. The stats are coming in. This is from Forbes. By the way, if you hadn't guessed already, I am obviously in overtime, but I just want to remind you of this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Here's the article from Forbes. The most important coronavirus statistic, 42% of U.S. deaths are from 0.6% of the population. Americans are vigorously debating the merits of continuing to lock down the U.S. economy to prevent the spread of COVID-19. A single statistic may hold a key to resolving this debate: the astounding share of deaths occurring in nursing homes and assisted living facilities. This is as of May 26th. Nursing home and assisted living facilities are the number one COVID-19 problem. 2.1 million Americans, representing 0.62% of the population, reside in nursing homes and assisted living facilities. According to an analysis that Greg Jervin conducted for the Foundation of Equal Research Opportunity, as of May 22nd, in the 43 states that currently report such figures, an astounding 42% of COVID-19 deaths have taken place in nursing homes and assisted living facilities. Almost half. And yet, a good portion of the United States is still locked down. Let's look at that again. This is the stat. As of May 22nd, in the 43 states that report such figures, 42% of all COVID-19 deaths have taken place in nursing homes and assisted living facilities. And Governor Cuomo, you couldn't see that a captive audience like nursing facilities in your state were the very last place you should have purposely inserted a terrible virus. Over 10,000 people killed who could have been here today. The bulk of them killed in New York and New Jersey nursing facilities. Then there was a guy with a history of mental problems in Detroit. He got stuffed into a nursing home, so he decided it was good form to beat a 75-year-old guy almost to death. Mental problems? Coronavirus? Here's a great idea. Stick this genetic mutant into a nursing home. NewYork1.com also said, why the extent of coronavirus carnage in New York's nursing homes may never be known. The coronavirus death toll in nursing homes and adult care facilities in New York State has exceeded 6,000. 6,000. 6,000. Twice the 911, the 9/11 death toll. And it could have been avoided by not making an affirmative decision by Governor Andrew Cuomo to place people with Wuhan 19 into nursing facilities, places with, because I've seen them, I've been there. They have the least trained staff, the least amount of appropriate equipment, and the most vulnerable persons in the entire nation. Vulnerable to a red-hot ass virus. The human toll is real. There's a person that spoke to Tucker Carlson on his show. She's a meteorologist. She's named Janice Dean. And she lost both of her in-laws to the Wuhan 19 virus invading their nursing facility. But of course she got to say goodbye to them, didn't she? Surely she did.
New York has by far this country's highest death toll from the coronavirus. More than 5,600 of those dead were in nursing homes. Probably a number of reasons for that, but one of them was government policy, the policy of Andrew Cuomo, which required those nursing homes to admit patients who had tested positive for the virus. It was insane. Governor Cuomo hasn't been asked much about it. He did appear on CNN yesterday. The interview probably went as you would imagine, given that the interviewer was his brother.
Is it true that this was the swab that the nurse was actually using on you, and that at first it went into your nose and disappeared, so that in scale, this was the actual swab that was being used to fit up that double-barrel shotgun that you have mounted on the front of your pretty face?
Yeah, pretty amusing. A little more political theater for you. In fact, about 5,000 people died. This policy was at the center of that. This is an actual scandal, and you should know more about it. Fox senior meteorologist Janice Dean unfortunately knows an awful lot about it. Both of her in-laws, both of her husband's parents, died recently of the coronavirus while in New York nursing homes. Janice Dean joins us tonight. Janice, thanks so much for coming on. You and I have talked a lot about this off camera. You were very hesitant to come on, but this seems like a really important story, a national story, and you have firsthand experience of it. So tell us, if you would and you can, what happened.
So my husband's parents were in assisted living. His mom was in an assisted living facility. His dad was in a nursing home. And the plan was to have them both together. So Dee, his mom, was in assisted living, a double room. We were planning to have Mickey live with her. Mickey had dementia, and he had a few problems that he needed rehab. So he was in a nursing/rehab center. And the plan was to have them together. And Sean really wrestled with putting them in nursing homes and assisted living. Yeah. So this was a decision that, took place 6 to 8 months ago, very recently, after struggling for months, wondering if this was the right move. And as you've told your audience, we no longer have them here today.
And I mean, that's got to be the hardest decision that middle-aged people ever make, most of them, how to help and get care for aging parents who can't care for themselves. So this makes it...
I had to do that. I had to put my dad in a nursing home, not once, not twice, 3 times. And a fourth time. The fourth time, because he couldn't take care of himself in his house, I'm rolling him out in a wheelchair to my SUV, and he looks back at the house, and in a little teeny voice he says, "Goodbye, house." It's hell putting them in nursing homes in the first place.
All the more devastating. I just have to ask you, how is your husband holding up after this?
It's day by day, Tucker. We weren't able to have a funeral for them or celebrate their life properly. That was very difficult in the normal way that normal people would mourn. We didn't have that. He and his sister are recently cleaning out their apartment that they grew up in, that his parents lived in for over 60 years. They were married for 59 years. They'd never been apart. His dad was a New York City firefighter and was in the U.S. Air Force. And these people are real.
This is how you treat a veteran and a New York City firefighter? Like this?
Real people. They're not just numbers on a curve.
No, they're not. And you believe, having covered it, that the policy decision, the governor's decision to allow or to prevent the exclusion of infected patients from assisted living and nursing homes contributed to this.
I do. And that's one of the reasons why I'm speaking out, Tucker, is because I have not seen the coverage of this. You've covered it. Martha's covered it. The New York Post has covered it. This should be one of the biggest stories of this pandemic of 2020. 20% of our lost loved ones are from nursing homes. And it's because Governor Cuomo and several other governors, by the way, in different states, forced COVID recovering patients into nursing homes. And I am certain at least one of his parents, I believe his dad, before his dad died, a week before his dad died, they called Sean to tell him they were moving him to another floor. And I believe that floor was used for recovering COVID patients. I can't prove that. We can't get any confirmation on any of this. And by the way, he didn't find out until the death certificate came in that he was COVID. He got a call on a Saturday morning that his dad was not feeling well, and 3 hours later, he was dead. And his mom, 2 weeks later, got COVID, was rushed to the hospital, died in the hospital, and her number will not be counted as a nursing home or an assisted living home because of the governor's policy of saying that she died in the hospital, even though it was confirmed COVID.
And she contracted
So,
it there.
I mean, that's clearly an effort to reduce the total of recorded deaths in nursing homes, a way to cover himself.
Absolutely. And the fact that I am seeing last night him on another channel making fun, inappropriate jokes, insensitive jokes, cruel jokes. Make no mistake, I'm really glad that Chris Cuomo has recovered from COVID because he apparently did have it. And I'm glad that their family is well, but my family is not well. And that's not something to joke about.
No, it's not. And I should just say, and I know that our viewers who know you know this, but you are not a political person, not someone who makes political statements ever in private or in public. And for you to come on to discuss this, it took a lot, and we're grateful that you did. Janice Dean, thank you.
Thank
I'm
you.
so sorry.
Thank you for caring, Tucker. Thank you for caring.
10,000 plus deaths. We may not know the actual amount. My guess would be it might even be close to 15 or 20,000 deaths. Will we ever find out? I'm not sure. We know this, though. There is no sign on New York Governor Andrew Cuomo's desk saying the buck stops here. The buck simply passes through. It passes through. It passes by his desk. Governor Andrew Cuomo, essentially, sent death into nursing homes containing the most vulnerable and least able to fight the virus, a population everybody agrees should be the most protected, and it ends up being staffed by the least equipped and trained to battle Wuhan 19. We couldn't, then decided not to. That was an active decision. decided not to protect the most vulnerable. Simultaneously, the least vulnerable in our society were themselves locked down. The least vulnerable in our society were locked down. What do you do in a pandemic? You quarantine and keep safe the most infirm, those most susceptible. You don't quarantine the healthy. Yeah, a single death is a tragedy. 1 million deaths is a statistic, or at least 10,000 plus deaths in the state of New York.
Monsieur has been locked!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, where I was live and direct right here on the SHR Media Network. If you want to contact me, you'll find me on Twitter at BZEP at BZEP. Promotional consideration is by the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works and by the Boeing Company. If it ain't Boeing, I ain't going, and also by Pratt & Whitney Engines Thrust. You can trust. And especially after this program tonight, thanks to my personal KC-130 Flint, KC-135 Kettle One refueling team, with whom I will definitely be consorting in less than an hour. Thanks to everybody for listening live. Thanks to Eric Thompson for being here in the first hour. Thanks to everybody for being in chat, watching in Facebook, listening, and then chatting in the SHR Media chat and in Facebook chat. I appreciate each and every one of you for taking the time out of your busy night to do this. Thanks for listening at podcast. I'll be back on Thursday with Ken McClinton. God bless. Take care. Everybody be safe.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children. Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night.
Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.